to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and it has been a hot minute since we have had a Free Kick Podcast live episode, let alone an actual podcast. So I got to first start off saying thank you to Mike and Jose for allowing me to be on AAT Sports across the pitch last night to, give our final second thoughts after the whistle blew and attending Jim Curtin's press conference. So yeah, it felt nice to, this is my first podcast back, not being on my show, being on somebody else's show, and let Mike go ahead and be in charge of producing everything. So we're back with a Free Kick Podcast, and everybody that paid attention, that tuned in last night to Across the Pitch, I appreciate you guys. I know we have a whole bunch of comments coming in right here, starting with Kyle, Jillian, John. I appreciate you guys. Kyle joining in saying Jillian, Omni Blunder of the Week nomination on Blunder of the Week for Marlon LeBlanc. Yeah, Kyle, I don't know. Keep those blunders of the week coming. I think I know what I'm giving blunder of the week to over the weekend, but as you guys all know, because it's a midweek podcast episode, we don't do blunder of the weeks. And if I would have recorded a podcast on Sunday or Monday talking about Atlanta United, then somebody in this comment section definitely would have been getting blunder of the week. And so I don't know, maybe you're spared from blunder of the week if something crazy happens over the weekend. But as you guys know all the time, go ahead and let us know your nominations for blunder of the week. And my apologies too for I told you guys the last episode we talked about Andrew Rick's fantastic performance against New York City. I told you guys, there's a possibility we go live while I'm on vacation. That never happened because the connection down in Myrtle Beach at the house I was staying at, I had a bad feeling. It was spotty last year, and somehow, some way, Jose and I, and Kyle Omni too, we did a podcast last year, and somehow it turned out all right, but the internet was definitely spotty. And get to vacation this year, and it's like, oh my God, the internet's a lot slower than what it was last year. And then you couldn't walk around anywhere outside and get good service. And so it took me 2 whole days, to upload the goals breakdown video from that DC United game. It would not allow me to upload it on Substack, and I'm like, you know what? Forget it. We got a match review article out, the recap article out of the DC United game, and then we got the goals breakdown. There was no way, absolutely no way, the internet was going to let me record a podcast episode. And then there's honestly no excuse for me not doing a podcast for the Atlanta United game. And I should have gave you guys an episode on Sunday or Monday, but I didn't, and that's on me. But we're back, and that's all that matters. Jose Nunez chiming in saying, Vamos Toddy. We have Jillian saying, hello and welcome. Of course, it's everybody's favorite part of the show. I mean, it's an iconic intro. John saying, hi, folks. Nice meeting you too, by the way, John. First time in person this past weekend when the Union took on Atlanta United, and I appreciate you coming up to me and Kyle Omni, Jillian Omni at Union Yards, and nice to finally meet you in person, and glad to see you back in the comment section, and everybody else that's watching and maybe not commenting at this moment. I appreciate you guys, but I want to get straight into it and talk about last night's 2-1 loss to Orlando City. And it was a game I think a lot of you guys honestly expected the Union to lose. I think a lot of you guys that are listening to the podcast, not just the people that are in the comment section, I think a lot of people aren't confident with this team the rest of the season. I mean, you have Columbus next, and then you have FC Cincinnati at home. And I think, and I wrote about this in my match preview against Orlando City, the one saving grace for the Union is they have more road games than they do home games. They've looked horrible at Subaru Park this season, and they go up 1-0 against Atlanta United, and Jim Curtin said it after the game. Yeah, that should be enough at home. And Atlanta find a way to come and tie the game up 1-1. And the Union, for whatever reason, they can't find form at home. Yes, I know they beat DC United, what was it, 4-0, I think it was, but DC United's not a great team. They have that come from behind victory against Nashville last night, 4-3. Pirani scoring 2 goals in stoppage time, but Nashville's not a great team either. If we saw what the Union did to them, it feels like months ago at Subaru Park, right before League's Cup, 5-1 or 5-0, 4-0, something like that. Just goals galore. And you thought, okay, the Union get a big result against New England. They get a big result against Nashville. Then League's Cup happens. Union go on a decent run in League's Cup with majority of those games at Subaru Park. Then they play Columbus Crew at home and they lose 1-0 to the Crew. And that's a respectable performance against one of the best teams in the league. And then you see what the Union do against New York Red Bulls. They do against New York City. They do against Inter Miami. They get off to a hot start. DC United, the Union absolutely blow them out of the water. And then Atlanta United happens. You struggle to create any meaningful chances when teams force you to have the ball. And I do wish that I recorded a podcast episode after that Atlanta United game because I thought, and we've talked about that so many times on the podcast. I know other people in the comment section that do podcasts too. They've talked about it too. The way you beat the Philadelphia Union is by forcing them to possess the ball. You play in a low block. The Union struggled to break teams down like that. And it took a Nathan Harriel goal, not even a header. It took Nathan Harriel scoring from open play to get your first goal against Atlanta United. And once Atlanta tied the game 1-1, the Union really struggled to create any more chances in that game. And I think 1-1 was probably the fair result in the game against Atlanta. You look at the game against Orlando City last night, the Union don't start that game well at all. Orlando, the first 20 minutes in that game, outshot the Union 7-0. I mean, that is ridiculous. 7-0. Orlando should have been up by 2 goals, I would say. And somehow the Union catch a break. And I saw a lot of people, and we talked about this last night on Across the Pitch, that the big issue that a lot of fans have is why did Jim Curtin decide to go with Alejandro Bedoya and Olivier Mbaizo over Quinn Sullivan and Nathan Harriel? You look at the last couple games for Quinn Sullivan, 1 goal, 3 assists in the last 4 games. Yes, he gets the goal, the Union's lone goal last night. And a lot of fans were left scratching their head. Why would you bench one of your best players? Maybe your best player the last month. I know the Union nominated Quinn Sullivan as the player of the month for September for his strong performances. And I think the game against DC United where he had 2 assists, I think that all but solidified him winning their player of the month award. But Quinn Sullivan's been in fantastic form and starts the game out on the bench. Nathan Harriel, we just talked about it, scored the lone goal against Atlanta United, starts the game on the bench. But Jim Curtin was talking about it prior to this game. He was giving hints that there was going to be substitutions. He kept talking about, well, you guys know what we did the last couple of road games, who was in the starting lineup, and the reasons why we've had success on the road. And we trust going back with those guys. You knew Danley John Jock was going to come back into the starting lineup because of his strong performance against New York Red Bulls, and then unfortunately gets hurt on international duty with Haiti with that ankle injury. And the Union were just slowly working him back, and he eventually gets back to not 100%, but close enough to 100%. And I thought he had a good game against Orlando City last night, but you knew Alejandro Bedoya was coming into this lineup because he played against New York Red Bulls. He played against New York City. You knew that, okay, Jim Curtin's probably going to sit Nathan Harriel just because of how many games he's played the last couple weeks. So give him a little bit of a breather. And you could argue that Jim Curtin made the wrong decisions last night, playing Alejandro Bedoya, Nathan Harriel on the bench for Olivier Mbaizo. You can say that Jim Curtin made the wrong decisions last night. And Jim Curtin was asked, what went into these decisions. He kind of repeated himself from midweek, but it's worth playing again for people who maybe didn't hear the post-game press conference. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say in regards to putting Quinn Sullivan and Nathan Harriel on the bench.
Yeah, look, if you look at our road success this year, Olivier and Ali have gotten results in both New York City's game and New York Red Bull. They partnered up well on the road. The thinking tonight was to keep them together. I think Quinn and Nathan have a really good relationship as well. But what happened tonight, obviously, it didn't go well. And both goals came down that side. The first one when Olivier and Ollie are in, and then the second one when Quinn and Nathan were in. So these things happen, but the thinking was just our road performances this year, the relationship between Mbaizo, also paired with Ollie, with Danley back in the lineup, them being able to speak French and communicate also plays a minor role in things as well, and we gotten some results on the road. So that's what we went with. It didn't work tonight, so I think the questions are fair ones. Quinn came into the game, I thought, and made a big impact on it, which was good. And again, just trying to keep guys fresh and being able to press and run and fight as we go into this final stretch of the season. So it didn't work out tonight. Could have made some plays that we had opportunities to do so on, and didn't get it done tonight.
Yeah, Jim's right. I mean, at the end of the day, the Union didn't take care of their chances. They had two huge chances at the end of the game with Nathan Harriel, and you could argue that, yeah, those were big plays that get you into the playoffs, and that's what playoff teams do. They capitalize on the chances, and unfortunately for the Union last night, they couldn't capitalize on those chances, and they wind up losing 2-1 to Orlando City. But I mean, going back to what I was talking about, the Union should have been down 2-0, honestly, in the first half. I mean, 7 shots in the first 20 minutes of this game. I mean, 3 minutes into the game, you see a huge chance from Enrique and can't put that shot on target. And I was texting a whole bunch of friends last night and saying, I don't know who's worse. Is it Orlando City because they can't finish, or is the Union this bad because they can't defend? And I think the answer is yes. There is no right answer there. It's just yes. Orlando City's a team that has good star power coming into this game. Enrique and Facundo Torres, the star players for Orlando on the night. I should have had this already on my notes. I'll go ahead and kill time and go ahead and look at my match recap, because if you guys didn't read the match recap, I think that's probably one of them that I've not done in a while, where it's just pretty much all stats driven. And I know there's been people in the past. I don't think anybody in the comment sections commented on it, but yeah, there's been times where people said, yeah, it's too much stats driven on the podcast, Todd, tune it down. I know Kyle Almany listening right now in the comment section is like, oh, nah, you're not doing enough stats. But coming into this game, you look at the last 10 games for Orlando City, they were 7-2-1, 26 goals scored, 10 goals conceded. You had Facundo Torres, 8 goals in 10 games, Enrique, 6 goals in 10 games. And this is a team that, scores first and scored often. And once they scored first, they never really looked back. I mean, looking at their MLS record prior to this game, they were 9-2-2 when scoring first. During this stretch, Orlando City had scored first in 7 games, winning all 7 of those matches. And we saw Orlando City at the beginning of the year start slow at home, but that wasn't the case against the Union last night. The only difference was they weren't putting their chances away, and the Union really lucked out. They lucked out, and Jim Curtin talked about that in a clip we'll play in a little bit later about the inconsistency and hot starts against New York Red Bulls, New York City, into Miami, but then the slow start against DC United, then again last night against DC United. But getting back to the point where fans are complaining about the starting lineup, I knew it. I knew that it was going to be Bedoya and Mbaizo, because Jim Curtin had teased it a couple weeks ago, a couple press conferences ago, and he said it again in the clip you guys just heard. You look at the players that were on the field against New York Red Bulls, New York City, the players that we got results against, back-to-back wins with. Olivier Mbaizo started, Alejandro Bedoya started. So you knew those guys were coming in. But Quinn Sullivan, I mean, I understand people's frustration because he's played in all 43 games this season. He has 6 goals, 10 assists, and 3,078 minutes played. And so every 192 minutes, that's either a goal or assist from Quinn Sullivan. So that's a little bit over every 2 games-ish. He's giving you a goal or assist. Not bad for Quinn Sullivan. Definitely a breakout season for him. And it looks like I'll be doing my end of the season show sooner rather than later, unless the Union somehow get hot and go on a crazy run come playoff times, if they get in the playoffs. But I think nobody would make an argument where you say, okay, the most improved player, the biggest breakout player this season's been Quinn Sullivan. And maybe there was a chance where you look at Oliver Zemler playing in goal for Andre Blake because of all the injuries that Blake had. Maybe there could have been an opportunity to say, yeah, Oliver Zemler is the Union's breakout player. I mean, you look at the players that the Union brought in the offseason, we'll look at the new players that the Union brought in, and they didn't do much. And for a time there, it looked like, okay, we're going to have to say Oliver Zemler was the best player brought in the offseason, but that's definitely not the case. It's going to be Danley John Jock for his limited amount of times that he played in the summertime. But Quinn Sullivan, I think, has definitely been the breakout player this season for the Union, most improved player this season, the best homegrown, I think I would say, too, at this point. Jack McGlynn's had a solid season. Nathan Harriel's had a solid season, but Quinn Sullivan, and he's a player that I've been harsh on the podcast a lot of episodes in the past. He's a player that I've been harsh on social media, and it got the attention of Jim Curtin. And yeah, sure, I'll take the heat from Jim in a press conference. And yes, we know context matters, but I don't play for Twitter Blue, so I'm limited on the amount of characters that I can use. But yeah, how you don't start Quinn Sullivan, a player that's been in red hot form, that had a great game against DC United with 2 assists and comes off the bench and gives you a goal. And what this reminds me of is the game against FC Cincinnati in the Leagues Cup, I believe it is, because we've had 2 games this season, right, where the Union have scored 3 more goals at TQL Stadium, which I feel like super rare. But during Leagues Cup, Quinn Sullivan did not start that game, I believe, came off the bench and added a goal. And it's hard when you look, okay, the Union don't really have too many game-changing options. Sam Adeniran, he's not it. And I think now we can start making that judgment that, look, the work rate, working off the ball, the pressing, I respect it. But he just doesn't fit into this team. And I know Jim has to say the politically correct answer during his press conferences, backing his players, saying, yeah, he'll get a goal here sooner rather than later. But it hasn't happened, and it honestly hasn't looked like it's going to happen. Who else do you feel confident in that can be a game changer on the bench? Quinn Sullivan should be a starter. Alejandro Bedoya, after his performance last night, I would say is more so better used off the bench than he is starting. But yeah, of course, when you bring Quinn Sullivan off the bench, yeah, that's a fantastic option off the bench. We saw it in Cincinnati. That's the point I was trying to make, where he got a goal off the bench. Comes off the bench against Orlando City last night, gets a goal. But Quinn Sullivan shouldn't be on the bench. He's a player that you've got to start. And yes, I know Jim Curtin made it a point saying, well, look at the players we had on the field when we got the results against New York Red Bulls, against New York City, had a hot start against Inter Miami. But you can't take those chances now. You have 2 games left. The rest of the year, you control your own destiny, like Jim Curtin said. Yes, absolutely correct. You currently sit back in 10th place, have a game against against Columbus, and have a game against Cincinnati. Jim Curtin said after last night's game that, look, I've told the team this. If we can't get a win in one of these last few games, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. And that's what I named the episode tonight. I said, do the Union deserve to be in the playoffs? And honestly, they don't. They really don't. And I think this is showing you how much of a joke the MLS playoff system is, where 63% of the league, somebody do the math for me. It's 63, 65% of the league makes the playoffs. It shouldn't be that way. But this is what MLS wanted. And then you play the best of three. And I was texting Jose Nunez this, and I actually might have put it in a group chat where I said, there's a chance. There is a chance where the Union could, if they get in the playoffs, they could potentially host MLS Cup, which is a joke. Which is a joke. You would need the 9 seed over in the West, or the 8 seed, depending on who wins the 8-9 game, to be lower than the Union. Actually, that's a lie. The Union wouldn't host MLS Cup. I'm looking at it now. 45 points for Portland, 46 points for Minnesota. So the Union have a maximum of 2 games that they could potentially host at Subaru Park. If they become the 8 seed instead of the 9, then they'll host that playing game. And then the best of 3 series, then the Union would get 1 playoff game. But I think all of you guys probably feel more confident with this team on the road than you do at Subaru Park. At least that's how I feel. And the good thing, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, the good thing is in the last 3 games, the Union have 2 games on the road compared to 1, where they've looked much better on the road. But it's a joke, this playoff system. There's no reason why the Union should be in contention still for a playoff spot in 10th place on 37 points, 9, 13, and 10, after a horrible summertime. After a horrible summer. And yes, we'll talk about points dropped, because I do think it's interesting. And a big reason why the Union are where they are is because Andre Blake was missing. And we can talk about winter rebuilds, what the Union should do on a later episode. Benjamin last night on Across the Pitch with Jose Nunez and Mike Barrera, we talked about that on the show. Benjamin says Union should, I'll pull that up again, Union should worry more about a winter rebuild. Team is not good enough to win any trophies, as is with regressing players. And yeah, that's a big part of it too, where I saw some people on social media today, and yes, I know social media isn't the end all be all how majority of this fan base feels, but people were arguing about how their top of the end players are on high-end contracts that they don't deserve to be on. Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, Daniel Gazai, I think's earning his money. Mikel Uwe is doing exactly what you pay him to be. Not a high-end DP. I think he's a middle-of-the-table DP. But yes, because the Union don't spend a lot of money, yeah, it looks a lot worse than what he's actually giving you. But I think any team in MLS would be okay with the production you've got out of Mikel Uwe on the salary that the Union are paying him, because majority of the teams are paying more than $2.8 million, more than $2 million on their star players, what the Union are playing for Mikel Uwe. So I do agree that we've seen a lot of regression with players. Glesnes, Elliott, hard to say Andre Blake because he's been injured so much. Leon Flock, I think's been consistent, been hurt a lot. Alejandro Bedoya. The numbers show that he's still one of the Union's best chance creators on this team, at least offensively. Defensively, I think he's regressed, but he's still providing for you offensively. Yeah, there's definitely been players that have regressed massively, and it starts with the 2 center backs. And I don't want to go on a tangent because I'm sure we'll save that for the offseason, but the Union absolutely need to bring in a center back. And they were close to bringing in a center back in the wintertime. I mean, in the summertime, it obviously doesn't do anybody here any good to hear that they were close. And I fully expect the Union to go out and bring in starting caliber center back in the wintertime. And again, it doesn't do the team any good right now. With 2 games left, the season's still ongoing, but I do get the sense that fans would rather this team not make the playoffs and now just focus on the offseason. Yes, it would be nice to see the Union make the playoffs for 7 consecutive seasons, but at the end of the day, I don't think that they're deserving, because they've been way too inconsistent. Just when they start to go on a run, you start to believe that they have a performance like they did against Atlanta and then against Orlando City. And They go to Columbus on Saturday, and that's a scary thought. I mean, what's going to happen Saturday? I was asked by Jose, Kyle, and Jillian, to give my final 3-game predictions. I said lost last night against Orlando. I don't know why, but I believe the Union win on Saturday. And I still feel that way with how this game went last night. I still feel this way. If you watched any of last night's game, Columbus Crew into Miami, how they lost that game, heartbreaking. And they had a penalty save late in that game to tie the game up. And maybe that's going to be a little bit deflating to them. They had a chance to beat into Miami and take the Supporters Shield race all the way to the last game of the season. And they fall short last night to into Miami. And so, yep, maybe the Union are catching them at a good time. Feeling a little bit deflated. Cincinnati's always a tough task, but the Union have done well against them this season. This Cincinnati team's a lot worse than they were last year. They definitely don't have a striker now. So, I mean, it's possible, right? It's possible for the Union to still get into the playoffs, but at the end of the day, because of how bad they were in the summertime, I don't think this team's deserving of making the playoffs. And so, again, I understand why fans would say, yeah, let's just focus on the rebuild and the offseason. Let's blow this up. Kyle chimes in and says, yeah, 62% of the teams make the playoffs. Yeah, I knew it was 60-something, 63, 65, 62. Close enough. John chimes in and says, yeah, when we win 1 out of 13 game stretch or whatever it was, we don't deserve playoffs. Glesson's had a good first half last night with a lot of blocks, but all over the place in the second half. And you're absolutely right, John. The Union had 6 blocks there in the first half, and it was a full defensive effort. You guys noticed this. You guys are all smart listeners. But it was no secret that Orlando City was attacking Olivier Mbaizo pretty heavily last night. And that's what the good teams do. They go and attack teams' worst players. Jim Curtin says that all the time. In our scouting report, we look at the worst player that could potentially be on the field, and we attack that player heavily. And Orlando City, I guarantee you, if you ask Oscar Pereira, who was, in your opinion, the worst player to go at for the Union, they would have said Olivier Mbaizo. And Olivier was okay at times. And yes, I know fans are going to be upset with him for the goal that he conceded last night, where Enrique pulls him out of position, and then Luis Muriel tries to pass the ball to Enrique. Olivier Mbaizo gets a foot on the ball, and unfortunately the ball falls right back to Luis Muriel, and he can play the ball out left to Facundo Torres, who puts the ball in the back of the net. But that whole play starts, and you guys will see it in the goals breakdown video if you guys want to go back and rewatch it for yourself on Apple. Go and watch it. That whole play started in the midfield for the Union. It started with Jack McGlynn not tracking back, and John, I think you had a comment earlier in the show where you said, I'm trying to look for it, about, yeah, here we go. You said, Flock, Quinn, and Nate always bring the energy. We were lacking energy and aggression last night. And Jack McGlynn's to blame 100% on that goal, not tracking back. He was slow getting back in position. And so the way that goal happened, and again, I would show the goal here, but I don't want to get booted off YouTube right away, showing the play live to you guys. So wait for the goals breakdown video. Go on Apple to watch the goal back if you guys want. But Muriel's on the ball, and Orlando City spray it out to the Union's left, the right-hand side for Orlando City. And so because of that, Danley John Jock, covering for Jack McGlynn, shifts over to the left, and now that leaves a big space in the middle of the field. And so what should have happened there is Jack McGlynn needed to hustle back and cover the space that Danley John Jock left. I don't blame Danley for going out left, because you're always supposed to go ball side, follow whatever side the ball is on. He's assuming that, okay, Jack McGlynn, yes, wasn't in position, so that's why I'm covering for him. Let's hope that he covers for me when I leave the space behind. He does not. Orlando City see that. They move the ball in the middle to Luis Muriel. And then you see that run from the right-hand side, the left-hand side, Olivier Mbaizo's right-hand side, across the back line, pulls Mbaizo out of position, leaves Facundo Torres wide open on the left side of the field. And they don't get it right the first pass. They get it right the second pass. And it's disappointing where, yes, this team lacks energy at times. And people that went down to the game, Jim Curtin talked about how hot it was last night in Orlando. But at the end of the day, it's no excuse. And, You talk about wanting to revamp this team, going for a winter rebuild, Benjamin. And I'm with you 100%. I said it last night on Across the Pitch, where if I'm the Union, if I'm Ernst Tanner, I'm looking at fast midfielders. This team needs speed. They don't have speed. They need speed. Danley John Jock, I think he's very, very athletic. I think he does have speed. You need more players like that. And what was so successful with the Diamond a few years ago for the Union? You had Brendan Aronson, you had Jamiro Montero, both players that are going to win the ball back for you extremely, extremely fast. And as soon as they win that ball back, they're going straight on the counter attack. And they're always getting involved with the attack. And I think you have that in Leon Flock, but, and this is no discredit to Leon, he is what he is, but he's not going to give you the same things that Montero, Brendan Aronson, gave you offensively once they won the ball back. Yes, Leon Flock hustles. Yes, he's a workhorse. He is a high engine. But you want more offense. You want winning that ball back and going into the attack. And talking with other people today, a lot of people still upset with Daniel Gozlak saying, yeah, he's not really a 10. Well, how do you fix that? I'm fine with Daniel being, essentially a false 9. You fix it by getting more creative midfielders in, players that are good at winning the ball back and then good in the attack, like a Brendan Aronson was, like a Jamiro Montero was. No, you're not bringing Brendan Aronson back. No, you're not going to bring back Jamiro Montero. But there are players like that out there. You find what seems like a stud in Danley John Jock. And so if Union can continue to scout players like that, I think they'll be fine. But again, it doesn't help things right now with 2 games left in the season. And that's what's so frustrating for this team and for this fan base is like, they are what they are. And it's like, don't get our hopes up just to blow it at the last game of the season. If you guys are going to not make the playoffs, then let's make sure that doesn't happen this weekend against Columbus. That's what some fans, I'm sure, are feeling like. But long-winded answer how we got on talking about Alejandro Bedoya and Olivier Mbaizo over Quinn Sullivan and Nathan Harriel. And I was looking at this today too, where you look at the amount of games that Olivier Mbaizo and Alejandro Bedoya have started together this season. Olivier Mbaizo's played in 30 matches in all competitions this year for the Union, 18 starts. Alejandro Bedoya, 39 appearances, 18 starts. Both players have started 10 games this season with each other, with 5 of them coming at home, 5 on the road. Nathan Harriel and Quinn Sullivan, 35 appearances this season for Nate, 30 starts. Quinn Sullivan, 43 appearances, 33 starts. Both players have started 26 games together, with 22 of those seeing Nathan Harriel play as a right back. Nathan's filled in at left back, at center back this season in 4 of those games, but 22 of them saw Nate playing as a right back. And I'm sure the numbers would be a little bit lower too if you look at the games that Quinn Sullivan started at striker, which is why I've been critical of Quinn this season. And it's not a fault of his own. He's not a striker, but Jim Curtin doing what he thinks best for the team at times, playing Quinn up top, which definitely isn't the right answer. But again, we don't need to go on another rant. He's finally playing him in the right spot as an outside 8. And I think it's no wonder why we've seen Quinn Sullivan be the Union's best player here the last month with 1 goal, 3 assists. But 11 of those 26 starts between Nate and Quinn have come on the road, and 15 of those at Subaru Park. And so, yeah, it makes sense why Jim Curtin went with Bedoya and Mbaizo, because they have understanding. And you got to think of how long those 2 players have been with the Union, playing with the Union. They have a lot more games played together, starting on the right-hand side, than Quinn Sullivan and Nathan Harriel. But this season, yeah, it's 100% the preferred partnership of Quinn Sullivan and Nathan Harriel. Nathan Harriel is your starting right back. I think we started to see that last year, but this season has been the big selling point for us, saying, okay, yep, Nathan Harriel is the clear starting right back for the Union. And so I understand the frustration, but look, a team that relies on analytics, and I'm fine with analytics, and the analytics show you that, look, the Union have been successful on the road as of late with Mbaizo and Alejandro Bedoya starting. But at the same time, I mean, the form that Quinn Sullivan's been in, the form that Nathan Harriel's been in, it's kind of harsh, right, to start them on the bench. And Hopefully Jim Curtin doesn't make that same mistake this Saturday against Columbus. Let's go on to another point that I wanted to talk about. I did not plan on the show going more than 45 minutes. It's definitely going to go over 45 minutes. But some of you guys, I'm sure, are like, well, you haven't given us a podcast in so long. So yes, please go over 45 minutes. So that's what it looks like. It's definitely going to be going over. But going back, and I know I'm repeating myself, comparing a lot of games, bringing up a lot of the same games. I've missed talking about the Union with you guys. That's why. But the Union have the quick start against Red Bulls, against New York City, against Inter Miami, and they start slow against DC United. They start slow against Orlando City. Yeah, it's inconsistent. And how do you fix that inconsistency? How do you explain that inconsistency? That's what I asked Jim Curtin last night. What's how do you go about assessing the inconsistency? And this is what Jim Curtin had to say last night to that question.
I think our road record has been good enough this year, right? If you get to 5 wins, 5 draws on the road, you're doing your job on the road. Where we've let ourselves down is at home, 100%. We haven't gotten the job done at home. So I thought our start tonight, you warn the guys as much as you can that they're going to come out flying. It's their first home game in a little while. They're going to have energy. It's a Wednesday night game. I thought maybe we could have jumped on them early. And we didn't do that. We were sloppy. We turned balls over. To be fair, they missed 3 or 4 clear-cut chances. Andre didn't really have to make any saves, but they just missed the target and could have punished us, I thought, on a lot of plays tonight. So, again, we're lucky to get in it and got a gift, honestly, to get in at 0-0 at halftime. On the road, that's never easy. And we didn't take advantage of that opportunity. Look, Muriel plays 2 passes that are next level passes, no question about it. And changes the game for them. And we got punished. But overall, at this stage of the year, guys, as you guys know, the margins are razor thin. We have to do a better job in the attacking end and also defending our box, because the goals we concede, we could just do a lot better on. And then obviously we'll look at it, try and get ready, regroup, and go against Columbus again very quickly.
Yeah, a lot there, right? And I don't think anybody is blaming the Union's road form. And I hope Jim Curtin, my question wasn't taking a shot on how the Union have been on the road. I mean, I feel like I've wrote pretty heavily about how good the Union have been on the road the last couple of weeks. I've definitely talked about it here on the podcast where, yeah, it's a huge credit to Jim Curtin with how well this team's been on the road. The Union, 17 road wins in the last 3 seasons. It's fantastic. The 5th most in MLS. And something should be said about how consistent Jim Curtin has his team every single season playing on the road. And the Union's road form's not to blame whatsoever. But Jim Curtin says there, I thought maybe we could have jumped on them early, and we didn't do that. We were sloppy. We turned balls over. To be fair, they missed 3 or 4 clear-cut chances. Andre didn't really have to make any saves, but they just missed the target, and he could have punished us, I thought, on a lot of plays tonight. So, again, we're lucky to get in. We got a gift, honestly, to get in 0-0 at halftime on the road. That's never easy, and we didn't take advantage of that. And, yeah, Jim Curtin talks about, and he's talked about how the Union haven't been lucky at times this season, especially at the beginning and the middle part of the season, where you have injuries, you have players away on international duty, the ball's not following your way. But things went their way against New York Red Bulls, with them hitting the post and the crossbar multiple times in that game. Against New York City, where they give you 2 gifts and you take advantage of them and put the ball in the back of the net. Into Miami, you capitalize on their first blunder, but you can't capitalize on their blunder at the end of the game with Busquets. And DC United, I think you were probably lucky too, because DC couldn't finish the chances in the first 15 minutes of that game. And last night, 7 shots in the first 20 minutes of the game. And you somehow, some way get into the half tied 0-0. Yeah, I mean, Union very, very fortunate last night with that being the case, and really got a gift, and should have taken advantage of that, like Jim Curtin said. And unfortunately, they couldn't. And Luis Muriel, just like he did at Subaru Park, instead of scoring 2 goals, he gets 2 assists this game. And he's a world-class player. Well, not a world-class, but he's a class player. He showed it when he was playing in Serie A with Atalanta. He's shown it with the Colombian national team. And yes, they brought him in to be the starting striker, and he's not been that guy. And Duncan Maguire, you would think, would be the starting striker too. And he's not been the guy. It's been Romero Enrique. Fantastic for Orlando City as of late. And again, I think you can compare the benches then. You put two players that could start on a lot of teams in MLS. Duncan Maguire, I think some of you guys listening would make the argument that you would take him over Mikal Ua. I think that's how some of you guys feel about Mikal Ua. That, yes, you would take any striker over him. A lot of fans aren't happy with him. I think some people would say, yeah, we would take a Luis Muriel over Mikal Ua. There's a lot of teams in MLS that those two strikers would get in one. Nico Ladero, could he get into starting lineup still? Potentially, I think, Father Time's catching up with him, just like it does with all players. But the truth of the matter is, Orlando City's bench beat the Union's bench. And it's interesting to me where both managers turned to the bench, and all three goals last night come from players that were on the bench. And again, I mean, just going back to Benjamin's point, and I know there's going to be plenty of episodes in the future where we talk about this roster, how Ernst Tanner should approach the roster this upcoming winter. And I hope that I can be at the end of the season press conference, whenever that may be. And there should be legitimate questions asked. This is potentially the Union's biggest offseason that we've seen in a while. And I think maybe we were saying last season needed to be a big offseason, because this season really felt like this is it. This is the last season with this core group of players. And once again, it looks like they fall short. They fall short last year against Cincinnati. And yes, I know bogus VAR call, but again, it goes back to taking advantage of your chances in games. And it should never come down to a referee's decision. It should never come down to technology, because if you're relying on that, then you might as well pack up your bags. And it's why Jim Curtin talked about multiple times last night. He's talked about it in the last couple of weeks where, look, we shouldn't be relying on teams to get us into the playoffs, because if you're relying on that, then you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think this team deserves to be in the playoffs. I said that already tonight. And I think majority of you guys would agree with that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Union going forward. Anything else that I want to bring up on the inconsistency? Union need to have a fast start against Columbus. I think we can all agree with that. And Columbus, a very, very tough team. If they don't win against Columbus, yes, 40 points could potentially get you in the playoffs if you beat FC Cincinnati. But, man, I don't know. Take care of business against Columbus, which I know is a tough ask. Get all 3 points. And then it's a little bit less pressure at Subaru Park, because for whatever reason, this team feels the pressure every single game at home at Subaru Park. And man, I would I would hate for everything to come down to that last game at Subaru Park. And it might. And you guys, I think people in the media would rather see the Union just need a point. Just play for a point and you're in the playoffs. But this team never makes it easy, and so that's probably not going to be the case. But the last thing I want to talk about before we end the show is, and Jim Curtin was actually asked about, do you guys scoreboard watch other games, see what's going on around the league, where, okay, if you guys don't get the points that you need to get into the playoffs, do you start talking about the different scenarios, how other teams can help get you into the playoffs? And I think Jim Curtin gave a very interesting response to that question, and basically said, yeah, of course I'm dialed in. I know what's going on around the league. And I just think it's a good point to bring up tonight. So this is what Jim Curtin had to say to that question earlier in the week.
Look, again, I'm pretty dialed into everyone's, opponents for the rest of the year. What scenarios can happen. Toronto has 2 games left. New England has 4. So there's different, wild, crazy things that can go on in the next couple of weeks. What I do know is that if we get 4 points out of the next 3 games, it pretty much guarantees a playoff berth. I know that's not an easy thing to do, but with each team playing each other, kind of cannibalizing each other, taking points from each other, 4 points should almost guarantee an opportunity in the playoffs. Are there scenarios where 1 point does or 3 points does? Yes, there are. But then you're asking for help. You're asking for luck. You're asking for referee decisions, or if you leave it to the last game, you're a red card away from being in trouble. So you want to. I always say control your own destiny while you're in control of it, which we are right now, and that winning is ultimately the thing that takes all the uncertainty out of it. So that will be hard in Orlando, but it's the best recipe for the response to Atlanta, where we feel like we left 2 points on the table. So it's been a challenging year, no question, but let's finish it the right way. We are still a team that's in good form and is dangerous, and we're playing against a team that's also in good form and already clinched the playoffs. So let's start the right way. Be difficult to play against, play our way, and try and get a result.
So again, that was Jim Curtin prior to the game against Orlando City, and he talked about the team being in good form. And I don't know, how do you guys feel the Union are form wise? You look at their last 5 games: 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. I don't know. I mean, just because this team's been so consistent on the road the last 2 seasons, just because they've been one of the better road teams this year, I mean, I don't know. I have a squeaky feeling that somehow, some way, and going to lower.com field's a very, very difficult place to get a win. We saw the Union winning for a majority of that game last season, and I know this team's a lot different. Both teams are actually a lot different than they were at this season, this last past season. And so, I don't know, maybe you guys feel differently, but I don't know. Something tells me like that would be that's so Union for them to go into lower.com field and get all 3 points, absolutely stun the crowd there in Columbus. And then you have a little bit of a break because of the international games, and then you finish out the last game of the season at home against Cincinnati. And if you can say, yeah, we just need 1 point at home against Cincinnati, yeah, you would feel pretty confident. Kyle coming in saying, I personally can't wait for Columbus. And I'm sure Kyle's saying that for the same reason why I'm saying that, why I feel good about the Union is because we're going to the game this weekend in Columbus and get to check off another MLS stadium, another away game for me. And I've been to a lot of away games this season. I've been down to Nashville, watched the Union win in Nashville, been to Chicago, watched the Union blow that somehow, some way in Chicago. They draw down in DC. They win against New York Red Bulls. So what is that? Four away games, and this is going to be my 5th one this season. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that game as well, Kyle. And my away record, I'd have to do the math on it the last couple of years, but I definitely have seen more wins on the road than I have losses. And so, if you guys are superstitious like that, you're like, yes, send Todd to all the away games. I would absolutely go to all the away games. And if people want to start sending me to the away games, I'll make a way to get them if that's what it means for the Union to continue to win. But John chimes in here and says, I'm excited, but last time when they played their second team and still played us, it is still in my mind. Talking about the Leagues Cup when the Union, or actually at home at Subaru Park, when the Union lost that game 1-0. And yeah, it's a disappointing game. And we saw in the Leagues Cup, the Union lost 3-1 away to Columbus this season. So yeah, I mean, it's no telling what's going to happen. And yeah, I would say, okay, look, here's the stats. I'm obviously going to include that in my match preview, the history between these two teams. But I don't know. I mean, it would be that so Union for the Union to come away with 3 points in Columbus. But I do want to real quick go over the remaining team schedule. So Montreal, they're in 8th place, 40 points. They have Charlotte and New York City. Toronto, 9th place, 37 points, 1 game left against Inter Miami. I could see the Union leapfrogging them. Union in 10th place, 137 points. DC United in 11, also on 37 points. They have New England and Charlotte. Atlanta, 12th, 34 points. Red Bulls and Orlando, 2 tough games. Red Bulls definitely want to try to get a higher seed than what they are currently in the Eastern Conference. Nashville, 13th place, 33 points. New York City, Chicago. I think Nashville's pretty much out of it at this point. You get 2 more wins, and that puts you at 39 points. I don't think that's good enough to advance you into a playoff spot. And then New England, it's a little bit interesting looking at them. They sit in 14th. They have 3 games left at 31 points. You win all 3 games, that puts you at 40 points, and that I think probably gets you into the playoffs, maybe a last spot in the playoffs, but it's going to be tough for New England. DC United, who's still fighting, Columbus, and then into Miami. Into Miami have nothing to play for as they are the Shield winners. But the Union do. They control their destiny, and yes, it's a tough schedule against Columbus and Cincinnati, both Ohio teams, but like Jim Curtin said, you get 4 points. That's pretty much going to guarantee a playoff berth. And yes, he acknowledged that it's not easy, but with all these teams playing each other, fighting for playoff spots, Jim Curtin's pretty confident that 4 points should see the Union in the playoffs. But there is a tweet that Matt DeGeorge put out last night after the game, and this is very, very true. No, last night's loss to Orlando isn't what could potentially keep this team out of the playoffs. They picked up 1 point all season long against Chicago, 1 point all season long against Montreal, 1 point against Toronto, 1 point against Charlotte, 2 points against Atlanta. It's not been good enough. Look at all the points that they've dropped this season. You dropped 3 points against Chicago this year. You dropped 5 points against Montreal, 3 points against Toronto, 2 points against Atlanta. You dropped 6 points against Inter Miami. Both times you played Miami this season, you were ahead and you wind up losing the game. You dropped 2 points against Austin, 3 points against Orlando. You dropped points against FC Cincinnati. And that game, I think, is a little bit harsh because it was so back and forth in that game. So if we're not including the Cincinnati drop points match, the Union have dropped 24 points this season. And yes, context matters. Andre Blake not being available for majority of those games that I just mentioned. But 24 points, it's not good enough. It is not good enough for this team. And this is a team that we've come to expect to be a top 4 team, a team to be pushing for the Eastern Conference Finals, pushing to play in MLS Cup. And to sit 2 games left in the remaining part of the season at 37 points, it's just not good enough. And yes, injuries have been a big part of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, not getting enough points against god-awful Chicago Fire, not a great Montreal team, a god-awful Toronto team, only getting 1 point each against those 3 teams, it's not good enough. Charlotte, I think, are one of the best defensive teams. And so, yes, you would have liked to have picked up more than 1 point. But at the end of the day, too many drop points for this team, and teams that the Union should have beat got points against. You didn't take care of business. And again, I started off saying in this podcast that the Union don't deserve to be in the playoffs because of what happened in the summertime. And yes, no Andre Blake. It's a legitimate reason for why this season hasn't gone the way that this team would have won it, as you guys, the fans, would have won it. But Chicago Fire, that's a game that still ticks me off. You're winning 3-1, and you wind up losing that game 4-3. Totally different conversations we're having here, guys. We're not talking, are the Union not going to make the playoffs? When you blow a game like that against Chicago Fire, you don't deserve to get into the playoffs. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had for the show tonight. So it's been way, way too long, and I'm glad that we got to do this. I'm glad you guys got to chime in on the comment sections tonight on YouTube. As always, try to go live after the game, a day after the game, around 9:30. Went live tonight here at 10 o'clock at night. So delayed it a little bit, but you guys still showed up. And actually, this is the most interaction we've had maybe ever. So Benjamin, I've not seen you comment before, so I appreciate you being here in the comment section. John, Kyle, Jose, Jillian, thank you guys all for being here tonight. And Kyle, didn't you say something about the shirt that I'm wearing? That is a sweet logo, by the way, talking about this anchor. So people that aren't watching one video, it says Joppatown Mariners. Joppatown Mariners. It's my high school, repping them. Because, and don't want to go ahead and make this into a sad situation, but almost a month ago now, there was a school shooting at my old high school. Only one person got killed. It wasn't like a mass shooting and everything, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see something like that happen in the community that I grew up in and still live in. And the communities got together to raise money for the victim's family, to raise money for the school. And so a whole bunch of people have started creating shirts like the one I'm wearing tonight. And uh, that's why I love this community. And um, it's home. It's all I've known. It's Joppatown. And it's a wonderful place. I love being on the water. And I'm sure majority of you people listening have no idea where Joppatown is. And uh, with it being on the water, it's like, man, I love fishing, and so I try to get out there on the water all the time. And it's tough to be away from this community. It's all I know, and so I can't really think about ever moving away from this place just because of how much it means to me, and just thinking about how much that high school and yeah, majority of my teachers aren't at the school anymore, but there's still a couple that had me when I was a student there, and so I think about them and the impact that all of them have had on my life. And it's funny, I think about it all the time where, man, if I would have been this passionate back then, as I am doing a podcast, I should have done journalism classes back then in high school. And then maybe that would have had me go and pursue it in college. And yeah, sure, college is still, you're never too old to go to college, but I'm like, man, what if? And Kyle and Jillian, you guys do your what if episodes, but it makes me think all the time. It's like, man, I could have taken journalism classes in high school, and how much better could I be? And could have done their morning shows that they do at the high school and everything. I'm like, man, if I would have had the confidence that I have now, could have been a lot different. But that school's made such an impact on my life, and it's where I really fell in love with the game, playing soccer there, 4 years varsity soccer. And so I'm going to the homecoming game tomorrow night against Edgewood Rams. Edgewood is the town right over from Joppatown. That's our fierce rivals. And so a whole bunch of people said, you know what, let's show up. We're making shirts. We're raising money for this community. And, why don't we show support for the students and show up for the homecoming game? So tomorrow night, Joppatown take on Edgewood. And so I'm going to show up. I haven't been to a football game since my sister was in marching band, graduated in 2017. And so I was very involved in the school. My sister was very involved. Both of us in marching band, concert band, me playing soccer there. And so being a part of SGA, Student Government Association. I mean, it's a place where I'll go back once a year, twice a year, and watch soccer games. And so going to be my first time back in 7 years to watch a football game. And so it's going to be nice to just see teachers that I haven't seen in a while, see friends, past high school friends that I haven't seen in a very long time. And so looking forward to going back and supporting that school and continue to support this community. And like I said, I mean, that school shaped me into the person that I am today. And I rep purple hard, except for the Baltimore Ravens. The only time you catch me wearing purple is for Joppatown. And so Joppatown Mariners been a really strange past month with a school shooting, something that you would never imagine happening in your community, never happening at your school. And it's crazy that these things happen, and it's sad. And, I'm thankful that, yeah, you never want to see anybody lose their life, but you see on the news, these mass casualties at schools when school shootings happen, and it's tough. And so I think, the worst of a situation, watching how much the community's rallied has meant a lot to me. And I know the community is going to rally once again tomorrow night at the homecoming game. And so just finding ways to give back and to support, I think, a lesson that we can all take. And you might not have had the best high school experience. You might not have had the best neighborhood to give up, but something that's always been instilled in me when I went to school there, and sorry for going on a long rant, is my assistant soccer coach, he had this saying, just be the change, be a leader, don't be a follower. And yeah, that's great everyday advice. Be the change. If somebody's having a bad day, you see him in real life, don't continue to pound on them. Be the reason that their day gets better. And that's how I try to live my life. And we had a saying when I was in high school, my town, your town, our town, one town, J town. And I'm just really, really passionate about Joppatown. I'm so passionate about this community, and looking forward to going to the homecoming game tomorrow night and just watching the community get together. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, where we get your podcast, The Free Kick. And make sure you check out the YouTube channel. We're live on YouTube after every game, youtube.com/freekickpod. You can check out the goals breakdown videos and check out my writing and the podcast and the goals breakdown videos all in one place by checking out the Substack, thefreekick.substack.com. And sorry for like that 10-minute rant, but you had mentioned, Kyle, the shirt that I'm wearing. And so I just wanted to, give context to people that are watching live, people that are watching the video, or people that are listening to audio only. People are maybe thinking, what shirt is Kyle talking about? Well, it's my Joppatown Mariners t-shirt. So with that said, wind it like this. And I so wish we had other people here. Wind it with this. My town, your town, our town, one town, J town.